Welcome back to the Movie Draft House. I'm your host, Mark, joined by co-host Jeff.
Hey, Mark, how good is it to not watch a movie based on a video game?
Oh, it's so good, bro.
It's so
I forgot what movies were actually like before we watched
video game movies. Woo, that was a rough one, but we don't ever have to do it again unless one of us, drafts it again in June.
I'm going to go to a real dark place real quick and tell you that if I draft video game month for our anniversary at any point, I've already killed myself. That's my suicide
I'll be
note.
sitting next to a zombie at that point.
It's my suicide note to everybody.
I think having a zombie as a co-host would be a good way to get clicks. So...
I mean, it would be unprecedented
it
for
would
sure.
Be.
You could. I mean, there's other there's other things that are worse. But Jeff, what's our theme this month, and what do we watch?
So this month we decided to make another one of our crazy convoluted themes, which is more than just saying, "Hey, movies about ostriches," which would be simple. Of course, there aren't any. But regardless that I know of, I'm sure there's a. Get at us. Let us know if there's a movie about an ostrich. And,
we bought a zoo.
And it's not about one ostrich. Is there even an ostrich in that?
I don't know.
I'd have to.
That's
check.
the only movie that came to mind.
Well, anyway, so our theme this month is our favorite actresses, which Mark has selected Emma Stone. I have selected Charlize Theron. And we are selecting movies for the other person to watch based on their favorite actress. That's the best way I can place it. So Mark selected Emma Stone. So I selected a film I've been meaning to get to for a while. And that is her take in the film, in the film The Favorite from 2018. It stars Emma Stone, Olivia Colman, Rachel Weisz, and Nicholas Hoult. It is directed by Yorgos Lanthimos. I'm sure I'm saying that correctly, who directed one of my favorite movies, The Lobster, and I've seen another of his films called The Killing of a Sacred Deer, which was bizarre. And his style is known for this dark humor, like serious tone, but there'll be just absurd shit in the middle of the movie at the same time, despite the seriousness of what's happening. I kind of love his movies. This is the only third one I've seen, but I like the tone he goes for.
Yeah, it's so I've seen Poor Things. I've seen Killing of the Sacred Deer. I've seen The Lobster.
So you have seen Sacred Deer?
Yeah. Yeah, it's with I think we discussed that last week.
I thought
Nicole Kidman and
oh, that's right. You're right. You did say that. You did.
Yeah. So, but here's the thing about Yorgos Lanthimos is that he has only recently, like, this style of film as far as, like, set design, costume, all this. Poor Things is very costume heavy, set design heavy, and then Kinds of Kindness. I haven't seen it, but I've heard that it
just came out. I want to watch it.
Yeah, I've heard it's very costume heavy as well. So he's a very visual director, and from that aspect, this movie is fantastic. The absurdity of costume that are featured in this film. It's almost like the costumes are, and I say costumes, but the clothing in this film is the film's own character. The wigs that everybody's wearing, it's his own character. Nicholas Hoult looks ridiculous.
I
love it. Right. I love
movie.
I do too.
Yeah.
But like, so I've been meaning to get to this film as well. It was nominated for a ton of Oscars. It might have won a couple.
It won one.
No, did it?
According to IMDb.
What was it?
I'm pulling it up right now.
Oh. But I think this is the start of Emma Stone as this, like, kind of powerhouse actress. That 2016 to 2018 range pre-pandemic. I think that's when she really was being recognized as being the next big actress in Hollywood. And so it won.
It won. Olivia Colman won Best Actress.
Yeah. And she's fantastic in this.
There really isn't any bad performances.
No. But like, she from top bottom, just like, she's awesome. And she's awesome comedically. Like, I was not prepared to for her to be as funny as she is in this film.
Yeah.
Like
my
when she yells,
it's like right off the beginning when she's like, "How was my speech? Oh, you were great. Did I lisp?" And she's like, "Do you have a lisp?" And she goes, "No. That's what was so scary. If I just suddenly had a lisp." It's that moment is like right at the beginning of the movie, and that's kind of when I knew I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm in safe hands," because I love that about his movies. Because the average viewer walking by might think his movies are really pretentious.
Well, it bills itself as a potentially pretentious film, but then you watch it and you're like, this film is fucking hilarious.
Yeah, and that's what I like about his movies, because he allows that artistic style that comes through, and you're like, you could almost see it as it's some of the things I have problems with some directors, and then he he's not taking himself that seriously when you watch the dance they do. 30 minutes into the movie is so crazy that there's his movies are so great. Like, you get these moments where you're like, is this serious? Is this a comedy? And then you get a moment where you're like, no, this is definitely a comedy, because you can't write that
right
thinking it's anything other than funny. And
I mean, it's almost satirical, and I use that lightly is because the film is based on Queen Anne and kind of a moment in her life, Queen Anne, in England, and so it is historical. And I didn't fact check anything that happened in this film.
If I had to guess, I'm talking out of my ass.
Yeah,
I would guess it's not very accurate.
Probably
because
not.
I don't feel like
Queen
that was
Anne
the
lived at one point
Sure.
in time and was the Queen of England.
Yeah, and so did Elton John, but I mean, Rocket Man.
He was
kind of
also
insane.
the Queen of England.
The best one yet, frankly.
But no, so like when you watch a Yorgos and see I think this was like kind of the start of his flair for this style of film, is because Killing a Sacred Deer is not this style of movie.
And what I think you mean by style, or what I'm interpreting anyway, is these sort of period pieces.
Yes.
Because like The Lobster isn't a period piece, but it's stylish.
But it's funny. Yeah, it's stylish and it's funny.
And I think The Sacred Deer is stylish as well, but it's more of a cold sort of medical style to it. And this is, I think all of his movies kind of have a cold style, but then this is that Victorian sort of thing. And I was watching the movie, I'm like, you know what this is? This is Game of Thrones, but Victorian and funny. Not Game of Thrones. House of Cards. That's what I was trying to say.
Okay, yeah. I
mean,
the
person manipulating their way to the top, and the various passive-aggressive battles that take place.
And this is written by two writers, and Tony McNamara is one of them, and he's pretty well renowned in Hollywood as a big-time writer. And he just, he also wrote a future film that we're going to watch, Cruella.
Ooh, okay.
And so the script is very good, obviously. But it's highlighted. The script is highlighted by the characters and the people playing them. Like Nicholas Hoult, this is the best I think I've seen him.
I can't disagree. And I like him. I enjoyed him in The Menu, and I liked him as Beast, in his turn as Beast in the X-Men films he was in.
Well, he's been I don't mean to cut you off, but recently he was in the Nick Cage Dracula film. What's the fuck that?
Oh God, he was good in that. That was such a good movie.
Right. And then he was in, early on in his career, he was in the movie where he plays a zombie, and but he's kind of like a half dead zombie.
That's Warm Bodies.
Yeah, Warm Bodies. And so like across his career, he's always been pretty good. And like this, and I've seen a good chunk of his films. This is probably the best I've seen him, and like he is just phenomenal. I'm surprised
incredibly good.
I'm surprised he didn't get nominated for best supporting actor. And that's like you don't want to give all your
but when they deserve it, they deserve it.
Yeah,
that's the difference. Like, and I don't know what else came out that year, and I don't care, frankly, but I think actually all 4 of our leads were phenomenal, and I really love Rachel Weisz in this movie too. She was in The Lobster, and she was fine in The Lobster, but that movie kind of required you to be monotone. Like everyone just kind of spoke in a monotone fashion. But in this, she really gets to be much more expressive, and she's kind of a badass. Like she's really cool in a terrible person kind of way. Like she is the Frank Underwood, to keep my House of Cards analogy going. She's kind of that Frank Underwood, cold, sadistic, manipulative person, but she's also really kind of a badass. Like when she comes back with the scar and then the eye covering later, I don't know, she's a boss. And when she comes back from, presumably she had been killed, and then she shows back up and hasn't even cleaned herself off, and she's just covered in blood and shit. I really loved that, and really her whole character kicked ass to me.
I love the scene where the guy with the duck comes into the whorehouse.
Oh, man.
And like he gets led back to her, and he's like, "Huh,
what was that duck's name? Bartholomew? I don't know.
I don't know."
The duck was awesome too.
But he goes, "Were you raped?" And Rachel Weisz's character goes, "Oddly enough, no."
Yeah, but there's an opening here if I want it.
Right.
Yeah, and just the movie is insane in all the best ways. Like it didn't disappoint in that fact. I kind of worry watching his movies that at some point he's gonna ditch the humor in them, and it would be really a shame if he ever did, because it's my favorite parts of his movies are this humor combined with the dark tone.
I feel like you're going to get around to watching Poor Things, and I ultimately think you're going to be disappointed in it, just simply because it doesn't carry the same tone.
It's not like funny.
It's not. The dialogue is not witty in that way. It's funny in parts, but it's like it's also pretty long. It's also it's a weird story. Emma Stone, like it's okay. So let's get into like the progression of Yorgos Lanthimos here and Emma Stone's relationship. In this movie, he shoots certain scenes to where it is purposely trying to give your imagination a little something with Emma Stone.
As far as her body.
Yeah, as far as her body. You get a little side boob, bare back, and at one point in time you get one single titty. But like it's almost like he was going out of his way not to show anything. And that might have something to do with Emma Stone and not being ready to, kind of get in front of the camera that way. But in Poor Things, she is naked for like 3/4 of that film. And it's kind of shocking, really, the span of 5 years and how like Emma Stone can just be like, no, I wasn't ready to then, but boom, now I am. Here's my naked body. That's just so having not seen this before, and then like the thing pops up on, when you started, and it's like, oh, nudity. And I was like, damn, Emma Stone's naked again. And we just didn't get it. But we got somebody jerking off to her in the first scene of the movie. That's fun.
Yeah. Wasn't that fun?
Yeah. In front of a little girl, too. What the fuck?
Oh, that was weird. That was less fun.
All right. So what did
weird thing? Yeah.
So what did you think of Emma Stone's character? Did you like her? Did you sympathize with her? Did you kind of get behind the reasoning that she was?
Yeah. So
Was she a
used
good
to
person? Was she not a good
Oh,
person?
nobody was. Well, I would actually argue that Olivia Colman's Queen Anne is probably the best person
Yeah.
in this film.
Or Nicholas Hoult. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, probably. But they all kind of are trying to manipulate things, except for Olivia Hoult. She's the one, Queen Anne is the one being manipulated. She's very much, by the end of this movie, I feel like a victim of the game of these two women who are trying to gain essentially Queen Anne's power through manipulation and coercion.
All right.
So as far as Emma Stone's character goes, Abigail, she was, according to her, we don't necessarily know. I mean, she could be lying. A former lady or someone of a particular stature. I don't understand how Victorian England worked, but there was definitely a social system that had to do with how much money you had and if you could ever cross those lines and become, one of the elite. And she comes in and essentially works for Rachel Weisz, who is the context of the movie. What am I trying to say? The synopsis kind of bills her as sort of a best friend of the queen, but you later find out that she's actually the queen's lover.
Right.
So Abigail works her way up to kind of get the power back. And I think initially, I think she's playing the game the whole time. She gets in there and goes and gets the herbage. And if all she was worried about was just having a roof over her head, she would probably be fine with the work. Although her coworkers kind of suck. But she got the herb to heal the queen's leg, and that gets her in the good graces and moves. So her character arc is really good because initially I am rooting for her. She's the underdog, right?
Right.
She's on the outside trying to get in. She's being treated like shit, and she's sort of Cinderella in that way. And she gets in, and then she gets corrupted, although I would argue that she's already kind of there, or when she sees the opportunity, right? So she oversees the Rachel Weisz and Olivia Colman's character having sex, and she's like, oh, okay. And she keeps it to herself, but then uses it as a way to seduce the queen and get in her bed for her to become the lady, the power. She gets permission from the queen to marry this guy who's a royal or whatever the hell he is. He's an elite. So now she's an elite by proxy. And, so
that's when it stops though. So she gets the socialite status back.
Right.
And she just stops caring about Anne. She stops caring about,
So here's my question, because you're right. Is Abigail or Lady Sarah, are either of them actually lesbians? Or
I would say no.
I kind of think you're right.
I think they're playing the part, right?
I think maybe Rachel Weisz, I would be more willing to say is gay. I don't think Abigail is, although she has no interest in having sex with men. So maybe she is, right? Because on her wedding night, she opts to jerk off her husband as opposed to lay with him. So I don't know, but I don't. I would.
Disgusting.
A different question would be: are either of these characters actually in love with the queen?
I would say, Sarah probably has some of that. I think we learned that. I think we learned that through the film towards the end, where Anne is expecting a letter from Sarah, an apology, right?
Yeah.
This apology letter, and it's intercepted by Abigail, and she reads it, and then she burns it. Mm-hmm. And I think that the letter is meant to symbolize, maybe not a romantic love, but a platonic love. For Sarah for Anne.
I took it more as she's trying to get back into the council. So they have what I would, because of my own being Americans, there are two parties of parliament. There's,
America.
for this sake of argument, one's Republican and one's Democrat. I think one's called the Whigs and then something else. I don't know. But
And the opposition. Whigs and the opposition, I think.
Right.
Those are the-
and so there's a leader of each group. And the leader of the one group who is trying to push to end this war is led by Nicholas Hoult's character, Harley. And then the other side is led by this other old guy whose name I didn't catch.
Is he the duck guy? No, he's not the duck guy.
No, he was not the duck guy, unfortunately. But he goes to Lady Sarah and asks her to write the letter to get back in the good graces. So I don't think that she's writing that letter out of any need for restoration outside of her own self-interest, because when she's writing the letter, you see her throw away about 100 drafts that are all like, fuck you, you suck, eat a dick, you know what I mean? And so I think at no point, I mean, there might have been a point where Lady Sarah did love her, but I really don't think so. Yeah. I think both Abigail and Lady Sarah are very much torn from the same cloth. Yeah. Except I think Lady Sarah is a little more willing to get her hands dirty.
I don't know, man. Like so there's big foreshadowing moment when Abigail and Sarah go, what is it, quail hunt or skeet shooting, whatever.
Like that's not even a sport. You have that they pull them out of cages and then let them loose and shoot them. It's like
that's essentially what duck hunting is.
No, not if you take your ass to a pond.
Yeah.
And then you shoot a duck that's in the pond. That's duck hunting. If you have a duck in a cage and then you let it out and shoot it, that's more just murder or euthanasia at best.
You take your dog and you take your shotgun, you load it up with birdshot, and you let the dog loose, and the dog goes and chases the ducks, and the ducks fly up in the air, and then you shoot them.
Totally different though. You don't know that those ducks are going to be there. It's a wild environment as opposed to.
That's true.
It's like fishing in a stocked pond. You know.
Yeah. I like my chances though. No, but like when they're the first time they're shooting, and Abigail, she misses the first couple, and then she finally hits one, and she's very happy, and Sarah says, we're gonna make a killer out of you yet. Yeah. Heavy foreshadowing mode. I even told my wife who was watching with me. I was like, ooh, she's gonna kill somebody. And so then we learn that, and we never get confirmation of it, right? But the writing's on the wall that she poisoned Sarah.
Right. See, I like that.
Yeah.
That's what I like about this guy's movies too, is I like some of the ambiguity. Like he does the right mix. Like I don't like ambiguity to the point of confusion where you're like, what the fuck is actually happening here? But us as the audience not knowing necessarily if Abigail poisoned Lady Sarah or not. She falls off her horse and ends up injured, and she thinks that she was poisoned. And she probably was, but we don't know, right? We never see the scene of Emma Stone going and getting the bleach to put in her soup or whatever.
Right.
So I like that sort of ambiguity.
But like I like the foreshadowing there is because then it allows you to start to wonder, and you start asking your questions when these things start happening in the film, and you're like, oh shit, Abigail, that might have been Abigail, and then things start happening, and she plays like she's caring, but then she's like, maybe she does care.
Yeah.
And like, so I like that too. I like a film that doesn't just spell it out for you. It allows you to make your own opinion, inform your own opinion.
Because we have a lot of questions of like, do either of these people actually care for her? We don't, I don't think so, but and honestly, the queen, because of her power, has been isolated because she can't honestly trust anyone. Everyone that talks to her in this movie wants something from her.
Right. Yep.
And so she really has no friends. And I think really at the end of the movie, I really like the ending to this movie where it's kind of everybody's stuck in shit. Like Rachel Weisz is permanently out of the royal house. And she kind of gets sort of one of the better endings of the three. Now, here's why I don't know that Emma Stone's character is gay, or maybe she is, but I don't think she's ever been attracted to the Queen, because at the end, the Queen is essentially forcing her to give her oral sex. And the Queen doesn't look that happy about it because she's isolated and realizes she doesn't actually have a lover. She just has people that used her to get things from her. And now Abigail is stuck because she's in a position where she still has to service the Queen that she's really not that into.
And she's got a rubber gout legs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Gout legs. No, and it goes back to Olivia Colman's performance here of just being so phenomenally good. Is that like she can go from being this like kind of just witty comedic character to a I'm wanting this tender moment with both Sarah and Abigail, and the way it's shot and written and directed. The audience gets that, some of that, and we're left to believe that, well, hey, mate, we know Sarah's up to something, right? She keeps sending her husband out for one more battle, right?
And she's trying to get him killed.
Right, that's it.
And that's another thing that might lead into us believing that she is gay.
Yeah.
Is like she's trying to get her husband killed.
And that's, so like, so her motivations are, self-serving in that way, but also like she is trying to also run the kingdom and, is getting a bunch of blowback, but she doesn't really care about the blowback. And then she makes up like, oh, Queen Anne said double the taxes. And so like she does not care. Like she doesn't care at all about anybody else other than what she's after. And so most of the movie, I'm believing that she's the true villain in the film. Right?
Yeah.
And then about 3/4 of the way through, my mind shifted and I'm like, I don't think she's the villain. I think the roles swapped midway through, and now Yorgos Lanthimos wants me to sympathize with Sarah and treat Abigail as the villain. And I think that's such good directing, is because like your first instinct, not instinct, but your first impression of all these characters is that, okay, Queen Anne's being manipulated, she's a victim here, and Sarah is the villain is because she's self-serving and she just only wants to get what she wants, and then Abigail is kind of this, you called her a Cinderella type character. And so like by the end of the movie, I'm like, I hate this bitch. Talking about Emma Stone. And I felt bad for Rachel Weisz's character. And at the end of the film, and I was like, damn, it ended, and I didn't really get any closure behind any of that. And which is not the film's fault. That's my own expectations fault, because I expected the film to be tied neatly in a bow. But I just think that the role reversal that Sarah and Abigail go through is some of the best, villain, anti-hero type stuff that I've seen in quite some time. And I can't really remember a film that kind of had this turn of characters simultaneously and so naturally that we're just like, oh, it's time to hate this one and root for this one. And so I appreciate that very much about this movie, is that it does not hold your hand, but it does allow you to make your own opinions about these characters. And it's like, hey, yeah, no, I think I want to root for Sarah now.
Yeah, I agree. I like the nuance here, and you never really know who the good guy is because there aren't any.
I mean,
the Queen is probably the best of them. And she's not particularly great. Like a lot of times she treats her staff like shit. But
The scene where Rachel Weisz, she comes out and she goes, "You look like a badger," and, and she's like, "What?" And so he shows her on a little mirror, and she's like, "Oh shit!" And so Rachel Weisz tells her to just go back to your room, and so she starts walking to her room. She yells at the little boy.
Yeah,
she's like, "Don't look at me," and he looks away, and she goes, "Look at me," and he looks at her, "Don't look at me." And it's just, I mean, it's hilarious, but it's sad, and it's, like, it's kind of the synopsis of the film, in a microcosm, but just another great scene in a pretty great movie.
What did you think about, speaking of great scenes, the scene where all these guys in wigs are throwing oranges at a naked man?
Yeah, and it's like,
what was
and it's
that
like
about?
slow motion too,
and it's like their greatest pastime, and everybody's loving it, including the man being pelted by oranges.
I don't know.
He's got a great attitude about this, and he's fully nude with his tiny cock and balls in his hand, and it was crazy.
You don't know that it's tiny cock and balls.
They fit in his hand. I mean,
what if he's got large hands?
Oh. So you make great points sometimes. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you do, though. That's one of them. But, it's just great. It was just one of those moments of the movie. I'm like, why is this here? I guess to maybe show that Nicholas Hoult is kind of fucking weird, too. But you can't really be mad at him for treating this guy like this because that guy's having a great time, too. He's laughing it up the whole time.
I just think it's more meant to show the ridiculous things that these elite status people just do in their spare time. I think that's
this is why we needed television, right? This is pre-television, and this is how you had to occupy yourself.
And I just think that, like, Yorgos Lanthimos is like, how can I show that these elitists are a bunch of fuck tools?
I had a dream one time about a naked guy being pelted with fruit. Genius.
And his large or tiny cock and balls are in his hand.
His large hands and or tiny cock and balls.
No, but like the scene goes on for like a good 5 minutes. It's
not brief. And you know me, I'm watching these movies and I'm just, anytime something like this is going on, I know one of my family members is walking in the room. Now they didn't, but it kept going on, and it was so suspenseful. Like there's the scene where she's trying to sneak out of the library, and it's super suspenseful. You hope she doesn't get caught. But this was my version of that, was hoping no one walks in the room while this guy's naked man is being abused.
Listen, this film was relatively tame when it comes to the indecency, I will say.
You're comparing it to
I'm just comparing it to other
things.
No, I'm just comparing it to other films we've watched.
Okay.
And it was relatively tame. You saw one singular titty.
No, you saw more than that.
Oh, that's true. In the whorehouse. And
Yeah, there's where he's going down the hall and all the night ladies of the night are there.
And then like Rachel Weisz wakes up in the room and guys banging somebody and
in the corner.
Like she's like, where am I? Just lay back down.
That guy came in there that day and he's like, all right, I need to see my usual lady. And they're like, well, we got a problem. We don't have any rooms. But we have this room where you have to bang her in the corner. There will be someone asleep in there, but don't worry about her. He's like, shit, do I get a discount? That'd be my question.
I don't know, man. Like, somebody watches you. Do they get a discount?
No, wait a minute. Now, it could be that he came in. I need someone to watch.
Yeah, right.
And none of them wanted to see it. And so they scammed him. Like, yeah, this should be in there to watch.
That's an extra 20, though.
Yeah. Insane.
The scams that go on in the whorehouses back in the 15th century. I don't know, 16th century? 17th century. No, that's the 1800s. No, that's the 1600s.
Hey, this is the 18th century, so that would be the 1700s.
18. Okay, I was on the right track.
Yes.
All right, so I guess I guess the question is who had the best performance here? Out of, in your opinion, who had the best performance?
Let's do one more. Let's rank all four of these.
Okay.
Right? So we're talking about Olivia Colman as Queen Anne,
Yeah.
Rachel Weisz as Lady Sarah,
Yeah.
Emma Stone as Abigail, Nicholas Hoult as Harley. And I got to say, before I do this, these are small degrees of separation because these are all excellent.
Yeah.
But I think I got to put Emma Stone in fourth.
Really?
I feel like the others got a lot more to play with. And I think I'm going to put Nicholas Hoult in third because his character doesn't have an arc, really. He gets to do some fun. He's just a really fun character, right?
Yeah.
Like every time he's on screen, it's just kind of fun. I would then say Rachel Weisz and then Olivia Colman would be the best. But again, it's small degrees of separation. I think all four of them slayed this movie.
I will agree with you there that all four are very, very good. But I'd go Coleman, Stone, Holt, Wise.
Is that fourth to first? First to fourth.
First to fourth.
Say it again, because...
So Coleman, Stone, Coleman 1, Stone 2, Holt 3, Rachel Weisz 4.
Okay.
And it's there's no, and then like honestly, there is no. I mean,
right.
They're all great.
Four
Yeah.
Just bangers.
Yeah. And you know, it's Rachel Weisz is like, she's been around for so long. And she's such a great actress, and her like range of film is tremendous. And so, like, I mean, you talk about her back in the days of The Mummy, which you haven't seen, which we will watch.
Correct.
But I mean, she's the eye candy in that film to Brendan Fraser. So, like, and we're talking.
I argue Brendan Fraser is the eye candy.
maybe. Let's ask Queen Elton John. But I think like seeing her in this film, and I don't know how old she is, but she's got to be getting up there as a very just like, and like you called her badass, but it's just she's more demanding in this role, and like she commands the role.
She's 54.
Wow. Yeah. But like very like she has command of what's going on. Like and really every scene with her and Olivia Colman, Olivia Colman's one of the best actresses living. And you know, they're going like kind of tit for tat, you know, back and forth, and like especially the scene with the badger. She tells her like she looked like a badger.
Yeah.
That was a very good scene where you're like, hey, you know, this Rachel Weisz is standing with Olivia Colman, and she's commanding this scene with Olivia Colman. So I appreciated the fact that you know, Rachel Weisz is so good in this, is because it really, and I know I've always just kind of been like, yeah, Rachel Weisz, she's good. She's a good
Me
actress.
too. Because even though, you know, like I said, Lobster's one of my favorite movies, she's pretty stoic in that as directed, right? And
Yeah.
I'm not blaming her because everyone is. But this time I got to see her like actually just kind of kill a character.
Yeah. I mean, and like I forgot she was in Black Widow. And so it's like, you know, there's these things you've seen her in, and you just kind of take her for granted, and she's, you know, she's very selective with her roles. She's been in probably 10 films in 10 years. And it's just like she's there, but like I feel like she's never really put in that upper echelon of actresses, and like this film kind of solidified my opinion of how good of an actress she is. And so yeah, top to bottom, the acting's phenomenal here. I don't know what to say.
costumes incredible. The setting, the cinematography is wild.
I don't like this. I don't like his use of the fish eye lens.
The
or
fish
whatever.
eye thing.
Yeah.
It is kind of weird, and then it's usually on this swivel.
Yeah.
I do like the panning of the camera because a lot of times what that shows you is how rich the sets are.
Yeah.
So like there's the one time where it's the camera's facing the dancers and then it pans 180 degrees to see the queen sitting in her chair, and that just shows you the scope of this set, you know? Like
Yeah.
a lot of that you wouldn't have to worry about building or whatever because it would never be on camera. But the sweeping camera kind of gives you these really cool shots of the environment. They are a bit dizzying because they are so fast. But I agree, like the fisheye thing is kind of weird at times, but not bothersome.
Yeah, he does. There's a lot of fish lens in Poor Things as well. It's kind of his thing, I guess. But no, I mean I agree with you. I mean the cinematography. Well, there's never really sweeping landscape scenes or shots. He does a really good job of like top down shots where it's either the carriage in the beginning, Sarah riding the horse, Abigail riding, just like there's these top down scenes that's meant to provide perspective. And another scene that I thought was oddly like romantic was Abigail and that guy's kind of like play fight in the woods.
That was weird.
It was weird.
She kicked him in the balls. That would be it for me.
Right. It was.
And she's.
it was fucking weird. Like, but like you could tell like she was kind of like flirting with him, but like she's like actually hurting him, and he's like, yeah, that hurt, but I'm into it, and it was weird, but like just that dynamic, like, and he was like actually trying to tackle her, and
yeah, he went in for like a Goldberg spear.
So it's just there's different aspects of this film where you're just like, I don't know if these characters actually really like each other, but they must because this kind of was romantic.
Yeah,
I don't know. Jeff, do you recommend this one?
Yeah, this is a lot of fun, and I think I understand why someone wouldn't like it. And I understand why someone wouldn't like The Lobster. But if you're like me and you like his kind of stuff, this is another great one. So, yeah, I recommend it.
I really don't know why you wouldn't like this film, other than
because
like
the tone is kind of weird, and there's a couple parts about midway through where I was like the plot kind of stalled a little bit and then got moving again. But I think the tone can feel pretentious to me, which is something I don't like. But because of the humorous nature and the fun story, that it kind of alleviates some of that for me. But that's kind of his shtick.
Yeah. But
at least in my opinion, I can understand why someone would like it. But I really enjoyed this. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I just think that it does present itself as pretentious, but like from like the first scene, like you can't like, I mean, dude's jerking off in front of a girl to Emma Stone and then kicks her out the thing, she falls and shit. And so that takes the entire film. Like you kind of like, you can let your hair down a little bit. With this one, it's a really good film. It's probably a top 5 that we're gonna watch this year. I'll be interested to see if we watch 3 or 4 other films that are better than it. But right now it'll be, if the year ended now, it would be pretty high up on the list. So
I'd have to look, yeah. But maybe. I
yeah,
really like it.
I recommend it as well. What I also recommend is hitting the subscribe button when it pops up so you don't miss any future content if you're watching on YouTube. And if you want to follow the podcast on all your favorite social media platforms, you can follow us at Movie Draft House. We're on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, right here on YouTube. So give us a like, follow, subscribe. And if you want to follow Jeff on Twitter and let him know, hey, man, I was kind of disappointed that no ducks wore wigs in this film. You can find him at Podcast by Jeff.
Please get at me, because you sound like my kind of person, if that's what you're concerned about. But if you want to get in touch with Mark and want to find out if he's up for having fruit lobbed at him in the nude, you can find him on Twitter at I Heard You Like.
Listen, if we're talking 1700s, and I ain't got no TV, and I'm a social,
that's what I'm saying.
I'm a social.
There's no
elite.
internet, no TV.
Bro,
you're either reading books or throwing fruit at people.
Listen, I'm in good shape. Let's throw some fruit at me in the nude, bro. Let's go.
Well, now you don't have to hit him up. You got the answer right here.
Let me know where to go. I'm just kidding. I don't want to be pelted with oranges.
Yeah. Well, next week we are going to continue our month where we're going to watch a Charlize Theron film that Mr. Mark has picked, and he has selected Bombshell from 2019. Starring Charlize Theron, Nicole Kidman, and Margot Robbie, as well as John Lithgow. I've seen it. You haven't? Looking forward to discussing it.
I'm excited.
Will it hang with the likes of The Favorite? I don't know.
I hope so, because this month could honestly hold a good portion of a top 5 if we played our cards right.
Yeah.
So
well,
I'm
it's too late. The cards are played. We just got to figure it out now. We just got to watch them.
Yes. Anyways, Jeff, any last words?
Not a one.